Hi, it's Rob from the Brush and Boltgun. Today I'm going to be doing a tutorial on how to paint simple bone. If you'd like to support the channel, our Coffee and Patreon page is a link below. Now on to the video. So the first thing that we're going to do is do a nice smooth layer of Citadel Rakarth flesh. Find this a really good base tone for the starter skeletons. It's not too creamy, like too bright. It's quite a muted and dull skeleton colour. So get a nice smooth layer of that on the go. Then we can move on to the next colour. I was going to use one of the skeletons from Curse City to do this, but I thought this one has a lot more bone on display, so it'll give a lot more idea of what I'm talking about when I'm painting it up. May take a little bit longer because there's more on display, but it will look cool. So now I'm going to shade the whole model with Citadel Seraphim Sepia. It's a great shade for use for skeletons, this, as it is dark enough to shade those recesses, but it's not overly dark, it doesn't look overly dirty or too distinct when it's done, because it is quite a light shade. It does look good for all the bone. Now we're going to reapply the Citadel Rakarth flesh. You want to be thinking about where the light is going to be catching the bone so that you can highlight those relevant areas. So you'll have a lot more shade under the rib cage where you've got those sections of the spine going up the vertebrae. Been trying to think up what the name of them was since I started the video. But you've got those vertebrae going up towards the inside of the rib cage, so they'd be a little bit darker. We just want to pick out all of the bones with this, leaving some areas a bit more shaded if they're not going to catch too much light. Then we're going to come in with the Citadel Ushabti bone. It's going to be the first highlight colour, and again you want to be thinking about where the light is catching the miniature. So on like the tops of the knees, the tops of the hips, you're going to have that little bit more, the brighter highlight. And on that piece of the femur stretching down beneath the hip joint, you'll have a little bit of shaded from where that bulges out and where you've got the shade from the body. And then you'll have the light catching the length of that femur. You also have on the vertebrae, you'll have a little concave bit on each section. So you can leave the Rakarth flesh or the sepia in there and just highlight the sections which stick out a bit more. You have also got some great details that you can highlight on this, like the pelvis and the shoulder blades and that rib cage too, which will give you some good details to play about with. As I say, if you do want to see a contrast version of this, then give us a shout, because I do have some stuff prepped to do things like that. So you can just keep on highlighting the skeleton with Ushabti bone. We can move on to the next colour. The final highlight we're going to do is Citadel Screaming Skull. And this is mainly going to be to do like edge highlights, like you would do on armour or weapons and things like that. You're basically going to be picking out the details and just highlighting the top edges of them. So maybe the knuckles on the fingers and things like that, the bits that stick out that little bit more, just to keep them highlighted and make the details that little bit more obvious where more light will be catching them. You can hear any noise in the background. There's a cat playing in a cardboard box about 3 feet from my desk. No matter how many times I take her out the box, she gets back in straight away. You can see with the build-up of different colours, or different shades of the bone colours, really does bring out those details and give it a really nice look. After some of the previous layers, you can get a lot of detail and a lot of nice little highlights on that pelvis. On the rib cage, you can do the really thin line on the top of each rib. I think I'm using the Insane Detail brush here from Army Painter. You can just pick out all of those details. Once you're happy with your highlights, there's one thing that I usually do as a little bit of an extra, and that is to use a little bit of Citadel Athonian Camoshade and use this on areas where there's either lots of bones, or in the case of this one, it's been strung up, so there's going to be areas that are going to be a little bit more damp than the rest, sort of like the feet and the lower legs. Also up around the head where that cloth is, where you want to add a little bit of this, and it just adds a little bit of greening and weathering to it, so you're kind of getting that mildewy kind of stuff that builds up on bones when they're left out in the open. Maybe not mildew, the green stuff that grows on them anyway. So use a little bit of Athonian Camoshade to do this, just to add that little bit of, not very much colour, but just enough you can see it. And it gives you that look of old bones that have been left out. I do this on the Rattlebone Skeletons too, on the areas where they've got cloth that be on the skin, because if they're outside in all weathers, probably going to stay a bit damp for quite some time. And with that, bone is done. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and if you have, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future content. Also, think about subscribing to some of our other social media, linked below. Thanks very much. If you like the channel and you enjoy the content, please consider supporting us at our Ko-fi and Patreon pages, linked below. Thanks very much.